Good morning, everyone. This is Mr. Grogan, and what we're going to be doing starting this week is that we're going to be going into code.org. Specifically, we're going to work with JavaScript, and JavaScript is a popular um, coding language that is used not only for websites but also for games, online games and whatnot, and also other online apps. It's also used a lot for phone apps, and it's actually used more than HTML coding, believe it or not. And um, we will be working almost exclusively with JavaScript through the fourth quarter. All right. Um, JavaScript is basically what Unit 3 will be involved with in code.org. All of you are set up for Unit 3 on code.org. I will go over the directions on how that works in a separate video. But uh, once you get onto code.org, you're going to go on to Unit 3, which is referred to as animations and games. All right. And all of this, we will be covering a little more than half of this. There's 22 lessons in all. We're probably going to do a little more than half of them. Okay. And well, at the very least, we will get up to lesson 14. My hope is to get into, a few lessons into chapter 2. We'll see. A lot of that depends on how distance learning goes and whether or not we get back to Mount Pleasant before the end of the school year. Right. But for at the very least, the first several lessons that we're going to be working on in JavaScript will be done on distance learning. Okay. So what we're going to do is once you get onto Unit 3 animations and games, you're going to go down. We're going to start on lesson 3. We're not going to do lesson 1 or lesson 2. All right. Lesson 3 is where the actual nuts and bolts of JavaScript coding really start to happen. Right? And the first lesson on JavaScript will be lesson 3, Drawing in Game Lab. The assignment itself will be sections 6 through 9. All right. Going on here, it'll be sections 6 through 9. However, it will be a good idea to, and what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be going over sections 1 through 5 with you, and I'll go through part of this assignment with you. It is relatively easy to do. The first several lessons are fairly simple to do. However, there's a lot of material that you need to be aware of because it will come up in later lessons. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go right into section 1 here, lesson overview. Right? And the first section of each lesson will involve an overview, and it will also involve new vocabulary words. You want to make sure you're aware of the new vocabulary words that get introduced. Some of them get introduced more than, some terms will get brought up again in later lessons, but you do want to make sure that you're aware of the new vocabulary terms that get put in. In particular, bug debugging and program. Bug is a part of a program that does not work correctly. Debugging is actually, fixing the bug. And a program, that's a word that I'm going to be using quite a bit. An algorithm that's coded into something that can be run by a machine. All right. I do want to make sure that you bring to your attention that most lessons will have new code that gets introduced, and there's a link for each new code that gets introduced. And there's 3 of them in this particular lesson: the fill color, the ellipse, and the rect. This right here, RECT, that's short for rectangle. The fill color, and actually not just with the fill color, but also with the other 2, there's a link for each one. If you click on it, a new tab will come up and it will describe what it is, what that code does. All right. A fill color sets the color used to fill shapes. All right. I'll go over that in a few minutes. All right. The other 2 new codes that get introduced are the ellipse and the rectangle. An ellipse is essentially a circle. All right. And it's a shape that gets used a lot in it's a basic shape that gets used a lot in JavaScript. Okay. And the rect, which is short for rectangle, all right, setting up a rectangle or a square. All right. And And as I said, each new lesson will have new code that gets introduced. You definitely want to, click on the link, and it will briefly describe what that code accomplishes. Right. So that's essentially what the first section of each lesson will entail. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into section 2. And this section is important because even though it's not part of the assignment, I do want to go over it with you because it gives you a basic layout of how these lessons will work. Okay. If you go on to section 2 here on lesson 3, all right, this will give you a general layout of how these lessons will work. All right. There's several things I want to draw your attention to. Okay. The first of which is over here on the left-hand side. All right. The left-hand side is where the program actually runs. All right. And you'll notice here that there's a little button here that says run. All right. If I click on run, all right, a box will show up, and I'll go over that in a moment. Okay. Once you run the program, it will this will change into a reset. All right. And but I also want to bring out right underneath it, you'll see something that says show grid. If I click on it, the grid will come up. All right. And if I bring the mouse over the program, you'll notice that right underneath where I clicked show grid, you'll see an X and Y coordinate. All right. This grid, all right, it works kind of like a graph that you would see in a math class. All right, where there's X and Y coordinates. All right, you'll notice that if I put the mouse all the way up here, right where 0 and 0 is, all right, you'll notice that it will, right there, that the X and Y coordinate will be close to 0. All right. If I go over here, if I bring the mouse over here, all right, where it says 400 on the top right-hand corner, okay, you'll notice that the Y coordinate is set at 0, just about, and the X coordinate is set at 400. All right. Right. So it goes from 0 to 400. Right? If I bring it down here, it's, both the X and Y coordinate are at 400. If I bring the mouse off the program, it just won't show up anything. But even if I move the mouse around even just a little bit, you'll notice that the X and Y coordinates will change. Okay. And that's very important. All right. Not just for this lesson, but also for future lessons. All right. So now we're going to go over here, and these are the instructions. Okay. Each of these lessons will have instructions that will go with it. All right. Make sure you read the instructions carefully. Most of them will have like a brief description of what this section entails, and then you'll see something that says do this, and it'll have some bullet points. You just follow that. All right. That for teachers only is not going to show up on your end. All right. So a lot of the early lessons will have a link that will say show me where. If you click on it, it will show you where the code. Okay. Now that's a helpful tool. Right. It's not going to show up in every lesson, but it will show up in some of them. All right. So what you're going to be doing is that you're going to be following the directions of each of the sections in each lesson. All right. So down here on the bottom, you're going to see a section there called Toolbox. Okay. And the Toolbox is where you're going to find the code. And you're going to, as you go along, you're going to see lots of codes in here. All right. And not only are you going to see a lot of codes in there, but there's also up here, it's going to be color coded. All right. Right now, there's just one line of code. All right. The workspace is where this code will actually go. All right. And the workspace is where you're going to put in the code that in which the final product will look like right up here on the program. All right. So right now, if you look at this, you'll see that there is a square or a rectangle square right here. All right. On the program. On the workspace is the actual code that makes this thing show up. All right. A couple things I want to bring your attention to here. One of which is the actual code itself on the workspace. All right. And what we're going to be doing in this class is that we're going to be using JavaScript, but for the most part, we're going to be using a certain type of code within JavaScript called Blockly code. And Blockly code, it essentially what you're doing is you're just dragging stuff here, and they call it on this code.org site, they call drag and snap, where you just click here and you drag it over like this. Okay, I'm going to put this back here. All right, and it's an easier way of JavaScript coding. All right, now to do real JavaScript coding, all right, normally you would just type it in, and there's actually a thing here called show text, and if I click on it, it will show how it's typed out. Now, if you really want to challenge yourself, you can do it like this, where you can just type in the code. But I would assume that most of you will want to use the blocks. Okay, and so what we'll be doing for the most part is that we will be using Blockly code. All right. However, there will be some sections later on, maybe not with this lesson, but some of the future lessons where the code will show up as text. You may have to type some stuff in. All right. But this show text thing here, that converts the JavaScript to regular JavaScript code. And if you want to put it back to block code, you just click on show blocks. All right. This thing right here, version history, that if you wanted to start over on a section, you just click that and you click start over. All right. Now, in here, notice that with this rectangle code, all right, the first number here is a 100. That's the x coordinate. The second number is 100. That's the y coordinate. If you look on here, all right, in order to put a rectangle block in, okay, you want to set the coordinates to where it would be on the top left-hand corner of the rectangle. Okay, so if I put the mouse on the top left-hand corner of this rectangle, all right, it measures out to about 100, 100. Okay, yeah, right there. Okay, so if you look at it right now, all right, you'll see on the grid, it's the x and y coordinate is set at 100 and 100. On the workspace, you'll notice it's set at 100, 100. All right. Now, when it comes to a rectangle block, okay, you have to set the coordinates as where it would be on the top left-hand corner of that rectangle. All right. So that's why it's set at 100 and 100. Okay. All right. So a lot of what you're going to be doing in these lessons, all right, you're going to be working from a program that will look like this. You'll have the actual program right here. You have the instructions right here. Okay, and you'll have the toolbox where the lines of code will be, and those lines of code you're going to be dragging over to the workspace. All right. There's some stuff down here, the debug console. I'm not gonna get to that right now. That's gonna be a couple lessons down the road. All right. So now what I'm going to do, when I go to section 3, section 3 involves a video. I would recommend that you watch the video. It's a couple minutes long. Most of what it describes is stuff that I've just gone over with you. All right. Section 4, all right, involves using the grid. All right, and what you'll see here, and you're going to see this on some of the instructions, is that you'll have the instructions will be listed here, where it says do this. But if you notice on the right-hand side, you're going to see an example of what the final product should look like. Okay, I'm going to run the program. All right, right now you see one rectangle block there. All right, and by the way, if you want to make the program bigger, you can just bring the mouse here and just click it like that. All right, right here. Okay, you'll notice that this right here, the program doesn't look like this. All right, and what we want to do is that we want this here to look like this here. All right, so how we're going to do that, all right, is first off, I'm going to click on Show Grid right down here. Okay, all right, now we have on our workspace, we have the rectangle. It's set at 100, 100. All right, so what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to take this right here and we're going to move it up here. All right, so the way how to do that, all right, we don't even have to add anything here for right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the workspace where it says rectangle 100. The x coordinate is set at 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the X coordinate so that it goes up here. All right. And then I'm going to change the Y coordinate to make sure that this goes up here. So the numbers I'm going to change it to, it actually shows you, if you click on show grid, it actually shows you the X and Y coordinate right up here, 0, 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to change it to 0. All right. The Y coordinate, I'm going to change to 0. Then I'm going to reset and then run the program. Voila. That rectangle block is right up there on the top left-hand corner. All right. And you'll notice on the directions right over here, okay, that's where it's supposed to be. Now, you'll also notice that there's one on the bottom right-hand corner. There's another rectangle block. In order to add another rectangle block down here, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the toolbox, and we're going to click on the rectangle right here. I'm going to click, and I'm going to drag it over like this. All right. Okay. I'm going to hit reset. I'm going to hit reset and run. All right. Now, obviously, we have the second rectangle block there, but it's not down on the bottom right-hand corner. It's right in the middle. All right. And if I bring the mouse over to the top left-hand corner here, you'll notice that it's set at 200 and 200 right over here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I want to change this 200 to 200. So that way this will go down here. Okay. Now, if you're not sure where to, what coordinates to enter in, put the mouse on the program right over here. Okay. You'll notice that, and I know that it's going to be a little tough to get it exactly right, but if you set the X coordinate and the Y coordinate to 350, all right. So if we change this from 200 to 350, and we change the Y coordinate from 200 to 350, we hit reset, run. There you go. Okay. The key thing here is that you want to make sure that that this rectangle block is set to 350. All right. And it's set at the top left-hand corner of where the rectangle is. You don't want to set it at the center. You don't want the X and Y coordinate to be at the center. Okay. You want it to be on the top left-hand corner. Okay. Like that. All right. And that's how that works. All right. So section 5 involves, it's another short video. This one goes into the color in between, basically goes into the fill color portion of it. All right. Definitely watch that video. I'll go over a little bit of that in a moment. All right. All right. So section 6, the assignment itself is section 6 through 9. All right. Section 6, there's 7, 8, and 9. Okay. Section 6. All right. Let's go over that with you real quick. Section 6. Okay. The fill color that gets introduced in this video here that's on section 5. Make sure to watch that video. It's only about a minute and a half long. All right. If I run the program, okay, you're going to see that there's 2 rectangle blocks that are colored yellow. Notice that on the workspace, you'll see a 3 lines of code, right? And you will see the 2 rectangle blocks, okay? But on the top line, you'll see something that says fill yellow. The fill color will color the inside of the rectangle block, okay? The fill color code, if you want it to use it to color in like one of the shapes, what you have to do is that you have to put that fill color in, the fill color code in first before you put in the coding for the shapes. All right. So notice that we have fill color yellow, and then we have our 2 rectangle blocks. Okay. Click on the show grid. All right. Make this a little bigger like that. Okay. And what we're going to do is that we're going to look at the code that sets the color. Right. That's the fill color code. All right. And then we're going to change the color from blue to yellow. All right. It'll show up as blue on your end. All right. Um, but in order to make this look like that, I'm going to change this to yellow. All right. It will start off as blue on your end. I forgot to change that. I do apologize. So change that to yellow. Okay. And what we're going to do is that we're going to add a new square by dragging the rectangle block into the code area below the fill command. Show me where. And then this new square can go to any location on the screen that you like. Okay. So what we're going to do is that we're going to go to the toolbox. Notice that there's another line of code there, this fill color, but we're not going to add that. We're going to add a rectangle block. I'm going to click this here. I'm going to move it right here. Okay. Now, reset run. Okay, now we're getting there, but we're not, this does not look like this. We want to move this block over here. All right. So what we're going to do is that we have to change the coordinates. Okay. So right now it's set at 200, 200. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I want it to go over here. So if I put the mouse right here, you'll notice you may not get it exactly where, but if you notice that if I set the X coordinate to, let's say 100 and the Y coordinate to 200, that might bring this over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here, this rectangle code that I just put in. All right. And I'm going to set the X coordinate for 100 and I'm going to keep the Y coordinate at 200. Reset, run. There we go. That's how that works. All right. So make sure that you do this section. Okay. All right. 7, 8, and 9, I'm probably going to, you'll pretty much have to do on your own, but I'll quickly go over what you'll have to do with section 7, 8, and 9. Okay. Section 7. All right. Section 7, what you're going to be doing here, okay, is that you're going to have, you'll notice that when you run the program, there's two rectangles, all right? One that's colored in red and one that's colored in blue. The blue overlaps the red. However, if you look on the directions, you'll notice that there's two rectangles there, but one of them's colored green and the green one overlaps the blue. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the code that draws the two rectangles. First is drawn red, second is drawn blue. You're going to change the red rectangle's color to green, and you're going to change the order of the code so that the green rectangle appears on top. So you're not adding any lines of code. You're just changing things around a little bit. Okay. To change the color of the code, if you want to change the fill color, you just click on it and select the color that you want to change it to. If you can't find the color on here, you just type the color in. Okay. So like, for instance, if I wanted to change this from red to black, I could just type in black. All right. If I reset run, notice how the color changes to black. Okay. But in this instance, you're going to change it to green, which is already there. Okay. And then you're going to change the order of the code so that the green rectangle appears on top. Now there's a little bit of trial and error. All right. But you just move it around a little bit so that way the green, this green square overlaps the blue one. Okay. You don't have to change any coordinates or anything like that. You're just changing the order. Okay. Section 8 deals with ellipses. Okay. Ellipses are ovals or circles. All right. And what you're going to do here, okay, is that use the ellipse to make a circle. All right. And you're going to add a new ellipse of a different color. All right. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to use the fill color. All right. And then add an ellipse. Okay. And you make it orange. Okay. Or actually make it whatever color you want. One key thing about an ellipse and how it's different from a rectangle, all right, is that when you're putting in the XY coordinates, okay, you are on a rectangle block, the XY coordinates are set at the top left-hand corner. On a ellipse, it's measured at the center. So if you notice here that it's the ellipse, the XY coordinate is 100, 100, okay. If If I go right here, if I go right in the center of this ellipse, notice that the X and Y coordinate is set at 100 and 100. All right, let's see if I can get it right. Yeah, it's very tough to do, but right at the center, that will show you that's the X and Y coordinate is set to the center of the ellipse. So make sure you know the difference there. Okay, so just follow the directions that are here on section 8. All right, section 9 might give you a little bit of trouble. All right, section 9, if you notice on the directions, all right, it will show you what the final product should look like right over here. When you run the program, okay, it's partly there. All right, what you have to do is that you have to look at the code in the workspace, okay, and then change the code so that this over here looks exactly like it does here. Okay, you need to essentially, and it'll even actually on the directions, it'll even tell you you'll need to move one line of code and change the coordinates of the square. So you're not adding any lines of code. You're just moving the code around a little bit, and you're changing the rectangle, the coordinates on the rectangle. Right now it's set to 175, 175, but you have to change the coordinates on these, and you have to change the fill color. Basically you have to move this down, this rectangle block down here, and change the coordinates. Okay, so that way this will look like that. All right. So like I said, the assignment itself is sections 6 through 9 on lesson 3. If you have any questions on any of this, please let me know. Through email or on Google Classroom or on Google Hangouts. I'll try and do a Zoom chat the day that we start this. And if you have any further questions, all right. Hopefully the videos for these will not be as long as this one, but there's a lot of things that get introduced here that, I do have to go over with you. My goal is that this week we're going to be doing lessons 3 and 4. All right. And then the next week will be lessons 5 and 6. So, but as I said, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.